by ordinance for each day. Afterwards they offered regular burnt offering and those for new moons and for all the appointed feasts of Yahweh that were consecrated, and those of everyone who willingly offered a free will offering to Yahweh. From the first day of the 7th month, which is modern day, they call that September, Shalakia, they call that October. They call that October. From the first day of the 7th month, they began to offer burnt offerings to the Lord, to Yahweh, although the foundation of the temple of the Lord was not laid yet, had not been laid. They also gave money to the masons and the carpenters, and food and drink and oil to the people of Sidon and Tyre, to bring cedar logs from Lebanon to the sea, to Joppa, according to the permission which they had from Cyrus, king of Persia. Okay, so the Israelites held their integrity and they paid for the things that they needed, as well as still being able to provide for the daily sacrifices and burnt offerings to the Lord. Restoration of the temple begins. Now in the 2nd month of the 2nd year of their coming to the house of Yahweh in Jerusalem, Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, Jeshua, the son of Jehozadak, Jozadak, and the rest of their brethren, the priests and the Levites, and all those who had come up of the captivity of Jerusalem, began work and appointed Levites from 20 years old and above to oversee the work of the house of Yahweh. Then Jeshua, with his sons and brothers, Kadmiel, with his sons and the sons of Judah, arose as one to oversee those working on the house of Yahweh. Now when it says, and the sons of Judah, Judah was an actual man. Judah was a Levite. So when it said Judah, that's not talking about the tribe of Judah. That's talking about a man that was named Judah, because that name held a meaning. It means thank you, Yahweh. And the word is Yahweh. So names were commonly used as far as the meanings that they had with different individuals. So when it says Judah right here, that's a man who is from the tribe of Levi, but his name was Judah. Let me read verse 9 again. Then Jeshua with his sons and brothers, Kadmiel with his sons and the sons of Judah, arose as one to oversee those working on the house of Yahweh. The sons of Henadad with their sons and their brethren, the Levites, when the builders laid the foundation of the temple of Yahweh, the priesthood in their apparel with trumpets, and the Levites, the sons of Asaph, with cymbals, to praise Yahweh according to the ordinances of King David, of David the king of Israel. And they sang responsively, praising and giving thanks to Yahweh, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever towards Israel. Then all the people shouted with a great shout when they praised the Lord Yahweh, because of the foundation of the house of Yahweh, because the foundation of the house of Yahweh was laid. So when the foundation was laid, the Israelites were praising. They were excited, you know. But many of the priests and Levites and heads of the fathers' houses, old men who had seen the first temple, wept with a loud voice when the foundation of the temple was laid before their eyes. Yet many shouted aloud for joy. So they were getting emotional. They were getting teared up, you know, so that the people could not discern the noise of the shout of joy from the noise of the weeping of the people. For the people shouted with a loud shout, and the sound was heard afar off. So it caused a commotion. you could best believe the neighboring cities were looking like, yo, what's going on? Why are they all screaming? You know, you could best believe they were looking like, and they knew who the Israelites were. So when they were rejoicing, the other nations were you know, they were thinking, what's going on over there? We might have to go check up on them and see what's going on. We can't have them. We know that the power of heaven is behind them. So, you know, they were most likely being nosy. Okay, chapter 4, resistance to building the temple. Now, when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin, being the so-called Negroes and the so-called West Indies and Jamaicans, the southern kingdom, and there was some Levites in there. There were some Levites in there. Now, when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the descendants of the captivity, so the descendants of Zedekiah, the descendants of the kings that were reigning last, once Nebuchadnezzar invaded on them, the descendants of those kings, now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the descendants of the captivity were building the temple of Yahweh, the power of Israel, they came to Zerubbabel, which was the leader at that time, and the heads of the fathers' houses, and said to them, let us build with you, for we seek your power as you do, and we have sacrificed to him since the days of Esarhaddon, which was mentioned before. Esarhaddon is the son of Sennacherib. Esarhaddon was the son of Sennacherib. So they already knew what was up, because they seen how they had documentation of how Sennacherib invaded on Israel. So they already knew all these guys are off. King of Assyria, let us build with you, for we seek your power as you do, and we have sacrificed to him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Assyria, who brought us here. But Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the heads of the fathers' houses of Israel said to them, you may do nothing with us to build a house for our power, but we alone will build to the Lord Yahweh, the power of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, had commanded us. So King Cyrus is still in rulership. So this is after 539. So around 535, maybe around 535. Then the people of the land tried to discourage the people of Judah. They troubled them in building. They hired counselors. I repeat, they hired counselors against them to frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia. So it jumped from Cyrus. Cyrus ended his reign in 530. His son Cambyses came into power at 530 and reigned until 522. And Darius came into power at 522. And Darius married the daughter of Cyrus, which is Atosa. Darius married the daughter of King Cyrus, and her name was Atosa. So it was somewhat like a marrying. And then Darius began to reign. So all the way until King Darius, they continued to build. So this is from around 539 all the way until 522, when Darius began to reign. They continued to build. And I'm gonna get a couple y'all bear with me for a second. Okay. So, verse 6, Ezra chapter 4 and verse 6, it reads, rebuilding of temple opposed. Now I'm going to read through and then I'm going to come back. In the reign of Ahasuerus, whose name is also Xerxes, the first, Ahasuerus is also Xerxes the first, which was during the time period of Esther and Mordecai. Xerxes the first came into rulership 486 all the way until 465. In the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign, so in 586, they wrote an accusation against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem. In the days of Artaxerxes also. So this is kind of like a fast forward. In the days of Artaxerxes also. Artaxerxes came into power in 465 and reigned until 424. So during Xerxes or Ahasuerus and during Artaxerxes, the neighboring cities sent letters to those kings and complaints against Judah and Jerusalem. In the days of Artaxerxes also, Bishlam, Mithredath, Tabeel, and the rest of their companions wrote to Artaxerxes, king of Persia. And the letter was written in Aramaic script and translated into Aramaic language. Rehum, the commander, and Shimshai, the scribe, wrote a letter against Jerusalem to King Artaxerxes in this fashion. So this is a fast forward. This is a documentation of the things to come. And those men, Tabeel, Mithredath, and Bishlam, are mentioned again. They are mentioned again. I thought I skimmed over them, but they are mentioned again. Okay, carrying on. Verse 9. From Rehum, the commander, Shimshai, the scribe, and the rest of their companions, representatives of Deniatites, the Apharsathites, the Tarpelites, the people of Persia, and Erech, and Babylon, and Shushan, the Dehavites, the Elamites, and the rest of the nations whom the great and noble Osnapper took captive, and settled in the cities of Samaria, and the remainder beyond the river, and so forth. This is the copy of the letter that was sent to him. To King Artaxerxes from your servants, the men of the region beyond the river, and so forth, let it be known to the king that the Jews who came up from you have come to us at Jerusalem and are building the rebellious and evil city. So they spoke evil of the Lord's good, and are finishing its walls and repairing the foundations. Let it be known to the king that if this city is built and the walls completed, they will not pay tax, tribute, or custom, and the king's treasury will be diminished. Now, because we receive support from the palace, it was not proper for us to see the king's dishonor. Therefore, we have sent and informed the king that search may be made in the book of the records of your fathers, and you will find in the books of the records and know that this city is a rebellious city, harmful to kings and provinces, and that they have incited sedition within the city in former times, for which cause this city was destroyed. And remember, Cyrus wrote a letter, what did he call it? A proclamation saying that the city shall be rebuilt. We inform the king that if the city is rebuilt and its walls are complete, the result will be that you will have no dominion beyond the river. The king sent an answer to Rehum the commander and Shimshai the scribe, to the rest of their companions who dwell in Samaria, and to the remainder beyond the river. Peace and so forth. The letter which you sent to us has been clearly read before me, and I gave the command, and a search has been made, and it was found that this city and in former times has revolted against kings, and rebellion and sedition has been fostered in it. There have also been mighty kings over Jerusalem, who have ruled over all the region beyond the river, and tax, tribute, and custom were paid to them. Now give the command to make these men cease, that the city may not be built until the command is given by me. So further investigation he thought was needed. Take heed now that you do not fail to do this. Why should damage increase to the hurt of the kings? Now when the copy of King Artaxerxes' letter was read before Rehum, Shimshai the scribe, and their companions, they went up in haste to Jerusalem against the Jews, and by force the arms made them cease. Thus the work of the house of Yahweh, which is in Jerusalem, ceased. And it was discontinued until the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia. Okay. So here I have for Darius II, who came after Artaxerxes, whom that was speaking of. He started to reign in 423. Okay. Y'all bear with me for a second. Okay, I'm going to get chapter 5. Restoration of the temple resumed. So it says that Darius came after Artaxerxes. So here I have Darius the first, 522 to 586. Xerxes the first, or Ahasuerus, 486 to 465, and then Artaxerxes, 465 to 424. And that's when the building was halted until Darius II. Ezra chapter 5 and verse 1. Then the prophet Haggai and Zechariah, the son of Iddo, prophets, prophesied to the Jews who were in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of Yahweh, the power of Israel, who was over them. So Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, the son of Jozadak, rose up and began to build the house of Yahweh, which is in Jerusalem. And the prophets of Yahweh were with them, helping them. And one of those prophets were Nehemiah. Okay, so here in the book of the Apocrypha, Artaxerxes is the one that halted it. This is the book of First Ezra chapter 2 and verse 16. But in the time of Artaxerxes, king of the Persians, Belimus and Mithridates and Telebulus, which was mentioned before, and Racumus and Biltithmus and Semelius, the secretary, with others that were commissioned with them, dwelling in Samaria and other places, wrote unto him against them that dwell in Judah and Jerusalem, these letters following: to King Artaxerxes, our Lord, thy servants Racumus, the story writer, and Semelius, the scribe, and the rest of their council, and the judges that are in Celesyria and Phoenicia. Be it now known to the Lord the King that the Jews are coming up from you to us, being coming to Jerusalem, that rebellious and wicked city. Do build and the marketplaces and repair the walls of it, and do lay the foundation of the temple. Okay. And then verse 30, I'm going to read verse 30 because that's the response that Artaxerxes gave. It reads, the king Artaxerxes, his letter being read, Racumus and Semelius, the scribe, and the rest of them, and the rest that were in commission with them, removing in haste toward Jerusalem with a troop of horsemen and a multitude of people in battle array, began to hinder the builders, and the building of the temple in Jerusalem ceased until the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, the king of the Persians. And chapter 3 verse 1 of 1 Esdras chapter 3 verse 1. Now when Darius reigned, he made a great feast unto all his subjects, and unto all his households, and unto all the princes of Media and Persia. Now this is Darius II. It may be the same Darius. Shalakia. Nope, this is Darius II. This is Darius II. So Darius came after Cyrus, after Xerxes, and after Artaxerxes. Darius II came after them. And to all the governors and the captains, lieutenants that were under him, from India to Ethiopia, of 127 provinces. And when they had eaten and drunken and being satisfied, were gone home, then Darius the king went into his bedchambers and slept, and soon after awakened. And that this is going into the account of when his servants had a debate on which was strongest. Out of wine, women, and wine, women, and the king. So the temple took a while to build, from Cyrus being in 530 BC all the way to Darius II being in 524 BC. Okay. Ezra chapter 5. And verse Ezra chapter 5 and verse 3. At the time of Tattenai, the governor of the region beyond the river, and Shethar, Boznai, and their companions came to them and spoke thus to them, who had commanded you to build this temple and finish this wall. Then accordingly we told them the names of the men who were constructing this building, but the eye of their power was upon the elders of the Jews, being Zerubbabel and Nehemiah, so that they could not make them cease until the report could go to Darius. Then a written answer was returned concerning this matter. So we said the elders, and we know that the leaders that started in the captivity of the Persians was Zerubbabel, Nehemiah, Mordecai. But Mordecai, Mordecai, but it had called them elders. So it had been a good close to 100 years. So from 530 all the way to 424. This is the copy of the letter that Tattenai sent, the governor of the region beyond the river, and Shethar Boznai and his companions, the Persians, who were in the region beyond the river, to Darius the king. They sent a letter to him, in which was written thus: to Darius the king, all peace, let it be known to the king that we went to the provinces of Judea and to the temple of the great power, Yahweh, which is being built with heavy stones and timber, and being laid in the walls, and this work goes on diligently and prospers in their hand. Then we asked those elders and spoke thus to them, who commanded you to build this temple and finish these walls? We also asked them their names to inform you, that we might write the names of the men who were chief among them. Yep, that's Darius II. So this is during Darius II. So it's a large gap of time. It's over 100 years. And during that time, our Lord had said that he had shortened man's days to 120 years, give or take. So don't be surprised if you find accounts of men living, 130 years, 120 years. Don't let that cause any confusion, Always go back and proofread and verify. But even during that time, men were eating healthy. Men were eating good. Their food wasn't defiled. Like in today's day and time, they got GMO everything. But, even me myself, I had to do a thorough search just to make sure I had it on point. But back to the topic. Ezra chapter 5 and verse 11. And thus they returned us and answered, saying, we are servants of the power Yahweh, the power of heaven and earth, and we are rebuilding the temple that was built many years ago, which a great king in Israel built and complete. But because our fathers provoked the power of heaven to wrath, he gave them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, the Chaldean, who destroyed this temple and carried the people away to Babylon. However, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, King Cyrus issued a decree to build this house of Yahweh. So they started in 530. Also gold and silver, articles of the house of Yahweh, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple that was in Jerusalem and carried into the temple of Babylon. Those King Cyrus took from the temple of Babylon, and they were given to one named Sheshbazzar, whom he had made governor, and said to him, take these articles, go carry them to the temple site that is in to the temple site that is in Jerusalem, and let the house of Yahweh be rebuilt on its former site. So all the square footage was traced. Then the same Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundation of the house of Yahweh, which is in Jerusalem. But from the time even until now, it has been under construction, and it is not finished. Now, therefore, if it seems good to the king, let a search be made of the king's treasures, of the king's treasure house, which is there in Babylon, whether it is so that a decree was issued by King Cyrus to build